I'm sorry, say that first part again about the fire occurred. Sorry.
Different possibilities of fire occurred and theories of what actually happened and the reforms that were made to improve safety of mine.
Okay. All right, so let's take a look. The Avondale mine disaster. One thing to mention there, look at the bottom right of the screen there. You can see about where this happened. That's also going to be close to another topic we'll talk about. That's actually not far away from the Latimer massacre either. Latimer, remember, that was a mine strike in which immigrants were, all of the people killed were immigrants. Avondale happened actually within 20 miles. So the Avondale mine disaster, as you can see, required a second entrance or exit as a result of the Avondale fire. Okay. You're looking at about 179 miners killed. Father, sons hugging. You saw that in the video as well. Okay. All right, let's go to the right side there and let's just read that information. Schuylkill County passed a law stating that all mines must have more than one opening. State inspectors were hired to enforce that. However, there was some controversy. I'm not really worried about that, but I did want to throw that out there, that there was some controversy. Was the law actually enforced uniformly? And in a lot of cases, it probably was, but there were some people that said it was not, the enforcement was not there like it should be. Okay, but nonetheless, let me just cut to the chase and I'll just show you this. This is what you want to know from the Avondale fire. It led to the Mine Safety Act and 2 forms of ventilation and a second exit or entrance, either way you want to word it. Okay, that's what you want to know. And you can obviously see the pictures there. And of course, we saw a lot on the video as well. But that's what you want to know. It led to the Mine Safety Act, which required 2 forms of ventilation and second exit. If you also look at the screen, you may notice something different than what I told you. Take a look at the historical marker, Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission. You might see something a little different there. Anybody catch anything there? Go ahead. Yeah, the death toll. Whereas most accounts say 170, about 180 people, 179. Obviously tragic, whether 110 is correct. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I've seen many conflicting accounts, all of which say it was at least 100. Okay, all of which say at least 100. So we definitely know it's tragic. Okay. Obviously, one is tragic enough. All right, but I do want you to be aware of the Avondale fire and the Mine Safety Act. Okay, again, 2 forms of ventilation and a secondary exit, which a lot of people thought should have never taken so long. Okay. All right, let's talk about the Porter Tunnel mine accident. This one happened close to home here, right on the other side of Tower City. Why Porter? Well, Porter is the name of the township. Tower is the name of the town. So don't be confused. Again, Porter is the name of the township. Sometimes, the Little League team up there, they call it Porter Tower because it's made up of kids that live in the town and also in the township that surrounds it. So you got Porter Tower Tunnel mine accident. Okay, let me go through a couple of details here. If you take a look at the map here, you can see right here is Tower City, obviously. And then just to orient, you're about right over here, right where the creek crosses 209. That's right where the Williams Valley High School, well, elementary and middle school is all right there. Okay, so it's about right here. And this actually happened about right here. All right, just outside of Tower City. What they actually did was the tunnel was over here, and they were mining under Route 209, which there's actually nothing wrong with that. But the tunnel went under 209 and it didn't actually go through the mountain, but it actually comes close. Okay. All right, so let's do this. Go ahead into Canvas, please. Take a look at this link. And this will give us a good overview of it. Okay. So we're right here. Bless you. Okay, remembering the local emergency response to the Porter Tunnel disaster, and this happened March 1977. I do remember this. I was very young. I think I was 5 years old when this happened. But I do remember people talking about it. I remember people coming through the borough of Elizabethville from all over the country. The miners were trapped. Let's get them out. I mean, this was like a media circus, as you can see some of the vehicles there, but this went on for several days. And there was actually a radio station in Likens at the time. Now we have the one in Millersburg, but that was WQIN, Quinn, they called it. And they were up there broadcasting. I mean, this turned into one heck of a media circus. All right, let's take a look. Klinger, you want to start us? And then you can call somebody if you would.
The story of the commonplace throughout the 48 years in history. However, this was brought the news of the disaster and forces through living communities. Families of those employed from the mine and concerned townspeople raced to the scene. Crowds gathered outside the tunnel were above a shout, awaiting news from the depths of their run. This was the scene.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry about that. But just take a look at that. You see that? We're talking about the siren. I did mention that real quick, but I just wanted to reiterate that. In a lot of cases, they would ring a siren in the mine to state that there was a cave-in. See, sometimes a cave-in could be small enough you wouldn't even know. Okay, so that there was a cave-in, there was an emergency, and as you see there, people come from the town to see what happened. Okay, go ahead. Continue, please.
This was the scene outside the Kosher Coal Company's Porter Tunnel on March 11, 1977. Deep within the mine located in Porter Township, Schuylkill County, a torrent of water rushed out from an old mine working that contained a vast unmanned reservoir. When the water rushed out, Ron Cole and Gus settled 9 months after that. Another, Ronald Adley, was trapped behind a glass wall and optionally be rescued on March 6th.
Now, they didn't know that the other 9 were dead at the time. They were able to know that Ronald Adley was still living. I just want you to be aware of that name, Ronald Adley. We'll definitely talk more. But they were trying to get all of them out. So they knew that there were 10 miners missing at the time. Okay. But what happened there is, why do we drill ahead in the mines? What's that purpose? Why is drilling ahead important? Good. Why did miners not always do it, though? Why did the miners not always do it? Go ahead.
Because it takes time.
Yes. The coal companies don't pay you to drill. They pay you to put coal in the buggy. That's what you're getting paid for. So if you're spending time drilling ahead, the chances of hitting water are slim and none to begin with, although there is a chance, as they found out. Well, they did not drill ahead. That's what happened. Okay, and with not drilling ahead, they didn't realize that the reservoir water was there. What they did, and I want you to understand this, they were tunneling along and they actually hit a bootleg hole that they did not know was there. Remember what I told you? Sometimes those bootleg holes are not put on maps. They did not know it was there. When they hit the bootleg hole, they hit the water. That's what caused the inrush of water, and obviously they were in very serious jeopardy. So they actually did hit an abandoned bootleg hole. Okay. All right, Ryan, or you can call somebody.
This disaster rattled the mining communities of Schuylkill County through the anthracite industry was but a meager shadow of its former self. A hardy group of mine workers still made through living the dwindling number of deep mines in the region. The response to the disaster, the deadliest in Schuylkill County in decades, proved a modern version of previous disaster responses. People raced to the scene. Miner safety crews arrived in a bid to rescue those who may remain alive within the mines. National news media poured into the southwest coal region, broadcasting live to the world the scene of the disaster.
The West Google Herald documented the local response to the disaster in its March 3rd edition. It is a fascinating window into how Tower City and other Schuylkill County communities faced down the disaster with courage, and they resolved to help it in any way they could.
And I think it's kind of interesting if you take a notice when this actually happened, March 1st. Okay. So, of course, that's where we're at. So this was 45 years ago.
As soon as word of the mine disaster was spread, emergency groups sprang into action. The Tower City Volunteer Fire Company ambulance went to the scene, and the crew helped with the handling of the body of Gary Klinger. The Tremont ambulance also came to the scene and transported the men to the hospital.
Okay, and the rest of it, we don't have to read all this, but just take a second and scroll down through the pictures there to get a understanding of what's happening. And what did happen. Okay, and we'll continue on. Just take a look up at the screen there. I'll go through a little bit more of the story. I'm not going to ask you to write this down, okay? But what you're looking at is some information. Located east of Tower City, Big Lick Mountain, you're looking at about 150 workers, roughly. The mine was operated. They had 2 shifts a day. Again, I'm not worried about all that. They produced about 700 tons. So it was a pretty good sized tunnel. And that's actually it just before this collapse happened. Okay, you can see not very high. All right. There were bootleggers there, as I mentioned. What they did is they were tunneling through and hit that bootleg hole. And there you can see the Redding, the Cucker, and local industry. We get the idea. All right, so March 1st, 1977. I realize we just read a lot of this, but let's take a look at this as well. Weaver, will you start us, please? And if you don't want to read the whole thing, you can call somebody.
On March 2nd, these miners found another one was found around 5 a.m. when the trucking sounds heard leading to the discovery of trap miner Harwood Adley. Work began on his rescue as other search and rescue efforts continued. Adley was not free until 5 a.m. on March 6th. The same day at 9:30 a.m., another body was recovered and another one was sighted. It took until 4:30 p.m. to recover that other body. Work continued at each unclaimed Marshall and Claymore. Bodies were found. The last 2 bodies were not found until 12:48 a.m. on March 30th. The deceased miners were Gary Lee, Junior Mark Broughton, Bruce Ronald, Dennis Rodney, John Warner, Malcolm Sabatini,
Yep.
and Donald Shaw.
Yep. Obviously a tragic situation. And again, the inrush of water, they did not drill ahead, and it came from the abandoned bootleg hole, the abandoned mine workings. What you're looking at here, people from all over the state came to help with the rescue, the Salvation Army, Red Cross. I do remember this. There were a lot of people that came from not just the state, but all over the country. Lasted 31 days, so I got the last person out, and the media circus. If you remember, we watched the video on Sedesi's Coal Museum from Likens, Bill Sedesi. That's actually him right there. That was the guy we saw in the video. Okay, that's him. He was part of the rescue. Well, he was actually the leader of the rescue crew to go in and get the miners out. That's Bill Sedesi right there. Some of the tools, I think, speak for themselves. Not going to ask you to writing down there, but that's talking about where Ronald Adley and how he was trapped. What happened is the timber simply gave out with all the water. And he was kind of, think about it, he was kind of like in a room, okay, about half as big as this. It just collapsed behind him and he just couldn't get out. But he was alive. When they actually got to him they got a cable to him, basically a radio. And they were able to get a hose to him so they could get him some water and things like that. He actually asked for champagne to be sent down the hose because he wanted to celebrate the fact that he was found and they were trying to get him out of there. But they decided that giving a trapped miner alcohol might not be the best thing to do. So they didn't do that. But that's actually what he asked for. One of the workings, this is a better picture of it. That's actually the tunnel that they drilled to go over and get him. You can't, dig straight to them, straight down, or it'll collapse. You have to come in from the side, and that's what they were doing here. But they were able to get him out of that hole and get him to the surface. The victims, obviously terrible, and they did not blame the coal company itself. They were not liable for it. It was considered a mistake, and I'll show you this. This is the historical marker if you go out Route 209 heading up Keffer's Mountain. You've probably seen it. It's on the right side. And that is a memorial to the Porter Tunnel mine disaster. Obviously tragic in and of itself. Okay. All right. Just a couple of facts here. Mining once the backbone of many local towns, mining one of the most dangerous professions in the world. You can see back in 2004, there were 6,000 mining deaths in China. I won't test you on this, but just to mention that the United States, with all of our safety requirements, come a long way. We only had 24, which obviously is never going to be miraculous for those 24 families, but we've come a long way, okay, from where we were. Burning banks. I just want to mention this a little bit. You can see this is up by Williamstown. Do be aware of this. The burning banks. Is anybody familiar with Centralia? What happened at Centralia? What's happening at Centralia? Ryan, you raised your hand. What do you know?
Underground.
Yes. Underground mine fire. They were actually cleaning up the borough for Memorial Day, and they had a bonfire on borough property. And what happened is they caught the coal on fire, and it's been burning ever since, for lack of a thorough summary there. Obviously tragic in and of itself. Had a similar thing up in Williamstown. Williamstown, what happened is they were burning trash also. This actually was a mine company, and they were burning trash, and what happened is they ended up catching the coal on the surface on fire. It was like a strip mine, and they caught that on fire, and it burned for a while. And people that lived during that time period said that, people your age would go out up there, you'd hang out. It was kind of neat to see the glow of the coal and the sky against the sky, places that people would hang out. Sometimes they would sit up there in cars, okay? So I was told, things like that. So take a look at it. But that did happen. It burned for a while, but they were able to extinguish it. Okay. That's the burning banks. Last thing I want to mention is this, the Knox mine disaster. And I think this one's really cool. Cool story, but never cool because people died, of course. The Knox mine disaster, and this one took place again up in northeastern Pennsylvania. Take a look at that whirlpool, if you will, there on the right. What they were doing was actually mining under the Susquehanna River, which again, no problem there as long as you allow enough earth between the river and where you're mining. The problem is they got a little greedy, got a little too close to the river. Now imagine you're underneath that and you break through into the river and you're underneath the river. You might be running pretty fast. Okay? Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's take a look at a video. I'll put this one up on the screen because I think this one's pretty cool to see on a big screen, especially when they show you the whirlpool there. Unfortunately, when this happened, you know, technology is nowhere near like it is today, so you didn't really have all of the ability to record this. So we have limited footage of it, actually.
You hear a thunderous crash, and a rush of ice water barrels towards you. Imagine you are working 200 feet underground, deep within an anthracite coal mine. You hear a thunderous crash, and a rush of ice water barrels towards you. You hurry to the nearest exit, while the water rises from your ankles to your waist to your neck. This may sound like a terrifying work of fiction, but in 1959, this was a reality. I'm David Braca, director of the documentary film Knox Mine Disaster. On January 22nd, 1959, in the anthracite region of northeastern Pennsylvania, the belly of the Susquehanna River broke into the Knox Coal Company mine, trapping 81 men underground. Rescue teams attempted to plug the breach by launching train cars into the massive swirling vortex.
Take a look at that.
Was taking the mine cars and ventilation doors that were in the way. And what saved us is we could stay away from that swift water.
The film showcases survival through adversity, the hope, faith, and courage it takes to get yourself out of a dreadful situation.
WDAU was there when the first small group of survivors emerged from the rapidly filling mine through an abandoned air shaft.
The obvious question became, how could this have happened? Was it an accident? Was there some negligence? Was there something illegal?
We want everybody to know that this will be a full and complete investigation.
State representatives, along with mine and safety officials, called for the formation of a committee to launch an investigation into the possible causes of the disaster in order to determine if the loss of 12 miners' lives could have been avoided, and if so, who was responsible. The story of the Knox Mine disaster is a compelling piece of American history, virtually unknown outside the anthracite region of northeastern Pennsylvania. With your help, I intend to change that. The interviews have been shot.
And obviously here he's promoting his own movie and he wants you to go and watch it. We understand all that. But let me show you this.
area. 12 men were killed in Luzerne County, one of the worst mine collapses in our area's history. Tonight, family members remembered the victims of the Knox mine disaster. Newswatch 16's Peggy Lee talked with the relatives. She joins us live from our newsroom. Peggy.
On January 22nd, 1959, a mine under the Susquehanna River in Jenkins Township collapsed under the weight of the water, and the mine flooded. Mike Beloga brought his family to Pittston Area High School so they could learn about the event that took his grandfather's life. On display, photos and facts about the Knox mine disaster that killed 12 men, including John Beloga, almost 50 years ago.
I want them to know, of course, what actually, how he died, and the history behind the mining, and how they risked their lives for their families.
On January 22nd, 1959, the Knox mine in Port Griffith collapsed under the weight of the Susquehanna River. Water rushed in at 3 million gallons per minute, creating a whirlpool 230 feet long and 150 feet wide. Bill Hasty worked at the mine and says he'll never forget that day.
I have not led a sheltered life, and I was shaken up a bit when I saw that the water was violent. Absolutely violent.
This is the plan for a memorial that would go at the actual site of the break, with this lawn area representing the approximate size of the whirlpool. The plan also calls for memorials for each of the 12 men killed, whose bodies were never found.
The families of the 12 men have no place where they could memorialize their fathers.
You don't want to forget history, because you can learn a lot for the future from what happened in the past.
Now this Sunday will be...
And that was, of course, talking about them building the memorial. But obviously, what they were doing there is, just to point that out, they're trying to plug the whirlpool as fast as they could because they were trying to get the miners out of there. And the more the water went in, the faster, people were in jeopardy. Turned out it didn't make any difference. The ones that could get out would have gotten out anyway, but they didn't know that at the time. But I think that's pretty awesome when you see those trains going in there just getting swallowed up like they're nothing. Okay. I believe it was 55 of train cars they actually put in there to try to plug the hole. Okay, just a couple last things. Test will be tomorrow. Again, uses of coal today. Let's just read through this real quick. Spec, please.
84% of coal mining today is used in electric plants, steel industry, insecticides, varnish, insulation, criticism.
It is considered a non-renewable energy source that once you burn it, it's over. But again, as I discussed with you, in my own personal opinion, there is no free lunch out there. No matter what you do for energy, there's going to be good things about it. There's going to be bad things about it. We're talking about electric cars, but if you look at the batteries that we need to build in those things, cadmium, which is not the best thing to use either. So, I'm not saying one's right, one's better than the other, but there's no free lunch. No matter what we do, there's always going to be something. Okay? All right, test tomorrow. If you have